Brandon Sanderson's Oathbringer. This is the third book in the Stormlight Archive series. This is a long one, 1,298 pages, 123 chapters. This, if you enjoyed the first two, this is a good one. The second one so far has been my favorite book. This was a close second of the three that I've read. And really, the style is a medieval fantasy and set in a universe with magic and spren. The spren act as forces, so gravity, light, all that, like magnetism, that kind of thing. All those forces in our world are embodied as spren, and they can act as emotions as well, so they can take forms as little beings and different colors and shapes, that kind of thing. And they bond to people, and those people then get power over those. So the Wind Runners, which is Kaladin, one of the main characters, he has power over gravity, which they call lashings, which enables him to make himself lighter or even fly with enough stormlight. And so the universe has these storms, and they're called high storms. I am not sure if it's every week or every month, but they are a regular occurrence. And the gemstones that they have, it recharges them, and it's called Stormlight, and they are stored in the gemstones. And they help power these magical abilities that are granted to humans who bond with a spren. So it's very rare, and they are called radiance, like the shining light, right? Light in the darkness. So this one focuses on Dalinar as the main character. He is the one trying to keep the kingdom together and stop everything from falling apart. He is a warrior turned general turned leader, and he doesn't enjoy the politics. He always was good on the battlefield, and that's where he sees himself and is most comfortable. So I really liked Pattern, one of the spren, Shallan's spren, as a chaperone. That scene was awesome. She is engaged to Adolin, and they need a chaperone, right? Like, they're not married yet, so the spren acts as a chaperone. That was a fun scene. One of the best in this one. I liked that the Assassin in White, or Seth, formerly the Assassin in White, has a role here. It's not a big one, but it is a role in that in the past he kind of shows up in the beginning and the end of each book, but here he does play more of a role. So that was cool to see. The thrill from an Unmade, Dalinar, he starts seeing red, a battle, thirst for battle, bloodthirsty almost, just his driving force in some of the battles. I really like that it came from an Unmade. It came from the darkness, a bad guy per se, an evil spren. And really, that is kind of cool. Like, bloodlust and bloodthirstiness isn't really a good quality in people, but really that was part of Dalinar's whole identity. Like, he was the Blackthorn. He was, this wave of destruction on the battlefield. And it's interesting that that came from darkness. So we learn more about Dalinar's first wife, so that was really intense. Like, that was a big build up to that one. And of course, the Night Watcher scene where he gets his boon and curse, the curse being that he can't remember anything about his first wife, even if somebody mentions her name. So that was a very interesting scene. We see multiple appearances from Odin. I like him as a character, right? He is kind of a slippery serpent, and so that is very characterized very, very well in this. I really enjoyed the Stormfather interactions. Dalinar has bonded with the Stormfather, and he is one of the three, like, supreme spren, kind of, and just like the way that he talks and describes, like, the Stormfather keeps saying, like, you attribute me to being all-seeing and all-knowing, and he's like, I can only really see stuff as I'm rolling over in a storm. So really enjoyed that, Dalinar thinks he's all-seeing and all-knowing, and he's really not. The visions, there's more to the visions. All through the last two books of Dalinar's had visions. They become even more important here, and really cool that he starts bringing people into the visions. That was key. Also see more of his bondsmith powers. We all kind of assume that it's bringing people together, right? Unite the kingdoms, what we think the humans is what we're thinking, but it's really a whole different set of situations. You're bonding different universes almost, but I don't want to give that away too much. And so we do see more of Shadesmar. That was pretty key. Like, before it's mentioned, Shallan visits it, but it's really like there's an adventure in Shadesmar. So very cool. That's where the Spren live, and that's where they're from. So it's called the cognitive realm. So less emotional, more thought, and really, really interesting. So I liked that part. Knowledge stored in the tower. They cut the gemstones in a specific way to vibrate. And so the sounds make a pattern, and that's how they recorded their knowledge. They didn't have digital computers or anything. They cut these gemstones and they vibrate, and it tells us a tale, almost like a tape drive. So that was really neat. I also liked Drazana. She is really the X factor. In the end of each book, she kind of has a big twist and throws something out there. At the end of the last one, she comes back from Shadesmar. The end of this one, I don't want to give it away, but she takes on some responsibility that nobody else wants. So really enjoyed that. She comes in with a bang. Wit, as always, is one of my favorite characters, definitely in the top 3, and he's described as like a Spren. So we don't really know his origin story yet, but he's been around for a while and does a great job. I like how the Radiants converse with their Sprens. They're bonded to them, and most other people in this universe can't see those Spren. So it would be really funny to see like Superman having a conversation with himself, right? We can't see his superpowers or whatever, but it would just be really funny, like, oh wow, that person is super powerful, but they're talking to themselves. They must be crazy. So could see how it would be a little isolating there. Yep, and I really like Kaladin's wedding gift. Don't want to spoil it, but that was a good one. That brought back a good memory from a previous book. Things I didn't like. This is a long book, almost 1,300 pages. You really have to be committed. If you enjoyed the first 2, you have to read this one, but at the same time, it'll take a while. It is a monster book. It was necessary though, but too much Shallan, I think that is part of it. We focused on Shallan in the last book. She was the main character of the previous book. So like, I think she has just a few too many parts in here. Maybe it's like fatigue. Like, I know the first one focused on Kaladin, and the second one I was kind of fatigued on Kaladin. So I think the same kind of thing applies here, but it's all good. There weren't bad Shallan parts. It was just, I don't know, maybe it was just fatigue on my part. So the Moash part, I really didn't like the part with him and the Herald. I didn't feel like there was any buildup. It just kind of happened. I think that's more set up for down the road, but it didn't feel right. I don't know how to describe it other than that. Few quick things before I get to the quotes. Seth has always had superpowers related to the sword that he carried. So it's really cool that he starts becoming a Skybreaker. I don't really know a lot about the Skybreaker Order of Radiance, but he still has a super powered sword. So it's like he is almost nothing without the sword. So he now has radiant powers. That's kind of cool. And he has a bigger part. Be wary of the people who claim to see the future. That is an ability of the Unmade. So that was really neat. I think a lot of fiction has trouble with time travel, and I almost feel like when you start throwing in time travel, that's when they kind of jump the shark. But here it wasn't time travel, it was seeing the future. So 2 characters get a quick glimpse into the future, and it's more of, that is related to one of the darkness Sprens, one of the shadow Sprens. So that was kind of cool. In the previous books, they kind of focused on 1 or 2 locations. This is a worldwide coalition. Dalinar is trying to unite all of the monarchs against the shadowy Spren and Odium, like the Voidbringers. There is an enemy. Everybody has to circle the wagons. So this takes place worldwide. There's all kinds of spots all over the world and in Shadesmar. So it's really neat, and you really kind of get different styles. So that might be why the book is so large this time. Last one. Shallan has interacted with at least 4 of the Unmade, possibly 5. So that could be a potential avenue for corruption, maybe, and she could become Odium's champion. I don't know. This is speculation. But it kind of seems like Moash is going to be Odium's champion. But I could see also Shallan being corrupted, and then, since she's interacted with so many of the Unmade, but she might also be the champion for the light. I'm not sure. So lots of quotes in this one. Really quick, let's see. Life is about momentum. Dalinar. He is battling on the battlefield in one of his background stories, and he has to push the attack, press the attack, and keep up the momentum. So that was really cool. I've heard that used to describe football and lots of sports. And really, it's an attitude. You got to keep going. You got to build momentum and keep going. So that was a pretty interesting quote. This one's from the Stormfather. There are no foolish oaths. All of them are the mark of men and true spren over beasts and subspren. Dalinar gets married, and he wants the Stormfather to marry him, and he's talking with the Stormfather about oaths, and really it's really cool. Words are binding, and it's something that we have over animals, so that was really cool. This is Shallan. The trick to happiness wasn't in freezing every momentary pleasure and clinging to each one, but ensuring one's life would produce many future moments to anticipate. That's Shallan. That was part of the chaperone scene, and that was a really, really good, lots of fun. It makes a lot of sense. You can capture emotion in a picture, but it's a small fraction of the experience itself. You can't see the light or feel anything from a picture. So very, very insightful there. This one is from the Ghost Bloods, the leader, Mraize. Morality is an axis that does not interest us. Only loyalty and power are relevant. Shallan is like, hey, I want to keep going. I want to learn more. And Mraize is like, hey, morality comes and goes, can change with the weather. But, these things are more absolute, at least in his mind. So the Ghost Bloods is still kind of this shadow organization that we don't know a ton about. And I'm assuming will play a bigger part in the future. This one's from Shallan. Power can be an illusion of perception even within yourself. She's trying to find out who she is. She's trying to convince herself. She's trying to convince her spren and those around her she is who she is and not one of her illusions. So that was pretty critical, and hers is almost a coming of age story. So this is Dalinar. In my painful experience, the truth may be simple, but is rarely easy. He is talking with one of the Ardents, one of the churchgoer keepers of the church ideals, and they're talking about the past and how they've grown and gone down different paths. And, they both see the truth in different ways, and, they have their experiences to go off of. So that was pretty cool. This one's Shallan again. Have you ever considered that bad art does more for the world than good art? She's talking with Kaladin, and they're kind of joking, they're ribbing each other, but it's really neat. An artist doesn't just sprout out of the ground and start painting right away. There's all kinds of failures along the way. This was a learning experience, right? It was bad art, but I also grew and learned, did this 10,000 times to become a master artist. Like, it doesn't just happen. There's a growth process involved. So failure is important, and it's about that momentum. You can't give up and that kind of thing. This one is Wit. Blasphemy. Art is not art if it has a function, and that's Wit. They are discussing the moral of a fairy tale, and Shallan and Wit, and really Shallan is like, does it have, that sounds like a function, a useful thing, and Wit kind of sees it as a standalone thing. I almost disagree. Like, I could see something that's useful, that is very beautiful. It could be art in and of itself, but I think this more applies to like standalone, like this is a piece of art that stands by itself rather than a tool that could be really beautiful. So that was kind of cool. And the last one, live and let your failures be part of you. That was Wit. That kind of tied this whole giant story together, and I really enjoyed this one. I'm going to wait a little bit before starting the fourth one just because this is so big. But Oathbringer, it is a great book, part of the Stormlight Archive series. Enjoy it. Buy your books used, and happy Father's Day.